go with it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Marcus Meets. Hello, Rupert Bolger. Nice
Hello
to
there.
meet you today. Hello.
Hi.
Rupert Bolger is our Director of Operations. Thank you for joining me today, Rupert. I think you're number 6 in my Marcus Meets. By no means number 6. You're one of my very closest friends within the organisation, Rupert. And I think today is about understanding your journey through the agency. You've been with the company longer than me, believe it or not, Rupert. So I sort of joined 15 years ago, and you joined in its infancy, Rupert, didn't you, from day one? So can you talk about, that? Can you remember your first day in Blue Sky? And obviously a lot has changed. Can you kind of talk about that for me?
Yeah, so I think the company's formed in February 2005. I joined in September, I think it was September the 1st, actually, 2005. And in the little Ringwood office, not the one now, we currently have another one, open planned office. We had one little area for a meeting room, and it was all quite strange. But yeah, when I joined, we had no foster carers and no children. I joined from another agency, which is a lot bigger. So I came to as a new start for me. It's quite nerve wracking, not knowing when we're going to get our first care through. But we had our first panel in September, and we slowly grew from there. But I think for me, initially the standout moment was our first placement, because in those days there were no contracts with local authorities, so it's what we call spot purchasing. So local authorities will pick up the phone and look through and go, well, we know them, we know them, we know them, and we'll make that call. But when I left the local authority I worked at, my manager said to me, "You'll be judged by your first placements. If they are successful, we'll keep using you." So we knew we had to really go do everything we possibly could in the early stages to make us grow our reputation. And in October 2005, and so end of September 2005, we had our first carers through panel. And then in October 2005, we got a phone call, probably about 4:15. Sorry for the detail, from a local authority saying we have a P&C placement.
Can I interrupt you? Sorry, P&C, to members of the public that
sorry.
is a parent and child assessment. So often, obviously, regular placements, we foster children, across the ages up to 18 years old, but we actually also offer parent and child options as well, don't we, Rupert?
Yeah, apologies for that. So it was between us and another agency, and it was myself and another guy, Paul, who at the time was a individual worker, waiting in the office for the phone call at 5:15. I think it was. We got the call to say we're going to go with you, and so it's a very exciting moment. Our first placement at Blue Sky. I phoned Simon, the CEO. I told him he's very excited, and actually that was the starting point, because that proved to be a successful placement. The carers did some fantastic work. The child and mum moved out into independent living, so it proved to be very good. And that was our starting point, and we went from strength to strength after that. And
can I just backtrack then, Rupert? You were in a very secure job previous to Blue Sky. I know you were a qualified social worker. Certainly, when I joined, sort of 6 months into the Blue Sky, you were the social worker. You progressed through the agency to the director of operations. But what gave you the confidence that it was going to work at Blue Sky from where you were? That is a huge sell to come across for a new startup organisation. There was no brand there. There was no confidence in Blue Sky. What made you make that decision and come across to Blue Sky, Rupert?
I think it's so I knew Simon from the CEO. I knew Simon from a previous agency. I knew his value base. We met. Actually, we met before Simon got into football, by the way, on the Champions League final, Liverpool against Milan. I was thinking, oh, hurry up! But we met in a pub where he discussed his vision, what his vision looked like, and for him, it was about changing the lives of children. I know it sounds a bit cheesy to some people that are listening in, but changing the lives of children, it did actually mean it. And by that, when we look at some of the stats around young people in the care system, often they are overrepresented in homeless people, overrepresented in the prison population. And so he said, if we could break the cycle of young people ending up being homeless or in the prison system or reoffending or offending or following what happened to them, then we are doing a job. And we have to be honest, not every young person we're going to be successful, but if we can have a high proportion of success with excellent foster carers, excellent team of colleagues, and we can make a difference to those young people. And still to this day, 15 years on, we are still proud of some of the outcomes for our young people. We hear the stories from our colleagues about the difference our foster carers make and some of the success stories. And to me, that is, when he told me this is what I want, I thought I'm up for that. I know he had nothing to offer me. My dad said to me, "What are you doing? Leaving a secure job to go here where it's a risk?" It was a risk, but I believed in it, and it's come to fruition. And we have made differences to so many young people, and that's what we're here for.
And just to say hello, Tony and Tara Fowler, thank you so much for posting. And absolutely, I will PM you another, interested foster carer. They're one of your friends, so I'd love to have a chat with them. So that's fantastic. And again, anybody that's watching this live broadcast, if you please call that number 0800 035 6499. 0800 035 6499. You get to speak to me or my lovely colleague Kate, and we can talk in a bit more detail about fostering and what that might mean as a career for you. So we'd love to hear from you. And Rupert, again, 15 years of Blue Sky, lots and lots of changes from day one, working with very few local authorities to where you are today. What have been the differences over those 15 years more broadly?
So say again.
15 years of being with Blue Sky, what changes have you seen within Blue Sky from its infancy?
Increase in size.
Sorry, say that again.
Increase in size, so from where we were. Yes, we've increased in size in terms of areas. So when we initially started, we really were focusing around Dorset and Hampshire, creeping into Sussex. And so now, of course, we go across to, I say of course, we go across to Chatham and in Kent and nudging into Cornwall. But our philosophy has never changed. Our passion for changing lives of young people has never changed. Our passion for getting the right foster carers in and the right colleagues in has never changed. We have changed in terms of looking at therapeutic. I know Ashley was last time on your last one. Ashley talked more about the therapeutic service. What we did in terms of we looked at some of the young people that are coming in the referrals. And we've adapted ourselves to meet the demand and the need for therapeutic placements. When Ofsted, who inspect us, last came along, they said, we respect the fact that you are an agency that will say, we will take that young person. Other agencies might say, we won't. You say we will. And because what other options are there for some of the young people who have complex behaviour? Residential, residential might be right for some young people, but we want to see if we can work they can live in a family. So we have adjusted, and I think as any business, any company, you have to adjust as you go along. But our core values and our core beliefs still remain the same. We still passionately care about our colleagues. We passionately care about our carers and our young people.
And thank you again, Tony and Tara, for expressing the support you get across all levels. So that's really lovely to hear. And as I said, the agency's evolved over that time, Rupert, and I know particularly close to your heart is our core values. So core values is something within the whole organisation. Every day we live and breathe those core values, don't we? And I know you put it out to all staff members, and you as a team looked at those core values. So I'd like to touch on those and how that impacts us every single day. So our core values, there's 4 core values, Rupert, isn't there? And I'd like to give you some, if you could give me some examples. So, one of them is treat others as you wish to be treated. Our second core value is around us being a family. We stand shoulder to shoulder. Our third is around a problem shared is a problem solved. And finally, we keep our promises. Now that is for everybody. It's for our foster carers. It's for our looked after children. It's for the local authorities we work with, isn't it, Rupert? So those core values, can you talk about how that came to fruition and give some examples of those core values in everyday Blue Sky?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to get the feedback out of the way. First and foremost, I didn't pay Tara and Tony to send that, but they're great. They're great foster carers, and I have a lot of respect for them. And so it's very kind of them to send a little message like that. We always had our values, but we didn't have them written down anywhere. We had something called 5 fundamentals that were given to us by an outside agency that. If I asked you now, Marcus, remember those? You go, nope, I can't, because I don't think we had them on the wall, but we didn't really take them down, didn't take note of them. But I think our values, we wanted to change that. And at a team day one day, everyone got together and wrote down what they felt was a good value. So we collated all of that information from all our colleagues, and then narrowed it down to 4, and got feedback from those 4. We tweaked it again and ended up with the 4 we got now. They are important to us, and I think it's important that we all live by them, and we're all accountable. So whether it's me, Simon, or anyone in the agency, we live by our values, and if we if we go off course, we need to be reminded to come back to them. And you can have difficult conversations with people and still have the values in mind. So they're very important to us. But a little story about the values, if I may. In the early days, is it okay to talk about that, Marcus?
Yeah, please do.
So when I think about our values, I think about a lovely story about a young man who came from a residential unit. It was a therapeutic unit, but he wasn't getting a lot of education, and sadly, he was being restrained quite a lot. He came down and visited my carers, who were brand new into fostering, never fostered before, had a real heart and a real passion, and they are still with us to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And the profile of him was 4'10", and etc. etc. He turned up, he was 6'3",
Wow.
and they said, "Oh, we made a mistake there." And he came in with 2 minders next to him and towered over my carers, who were quite short. And I thought, I'm not sure this is going to work. And he didn't show a lot of emotion. But the social worker for the child was very passionate about him and felt that my carers would be able to do this. And we talked about it, talked through, and thought, oh, we can do this. And the carers really wanted to take on the challenge of the young man. And he went there. And slowly but surely, he changed. And we got him into school, local school. Didn't last long before he was excluded. But he got into the exclusion unit. He found a teacher that was passionate about him, and he got into art. He was very good with his hands, and slowly but surely he made lots of changes. My carers got him into darts. The local authority weren't sure whether that was an appropriate sport, but darts has changed significantly. You're not allowed to drink at the hockey anymore, and it wasn't alcohol.
Yeah.
And he actually excelled in darts. He actually got really, really good at it. He got onto the circuit. He's playing in tournaments. His mum, he didn't have a great relationship with, started to come and watch him and see changes that he made, and was very positive about him. He started making better relationships with his mum and his brother and his sisters. And my carers stood shoulder to shoulder. I mean, they couldn't actually stand shoulder to shoulder with him, but they stood in the box they could. But they went on holiday, and he couldn't cope with that, so they cut the holiday short. But they said, we're still going on holiday, we're going to try that again. So we tried it again, lasted a bit longer. So they said to him, I'll promise to you is that you will come on holiday with us. And they stuck with that promise. When we talk about keeping your promises, they said to him, I'll promise to you is that you will come on holiday with us. If it doesn't work out, we'll come back. But eventually he could stay the whole holiday and enjoyed it. They never let him down, and he respected them massively. I played him at darts, and he always used to stuff me. And one time he knelt and played against me and beat me. I mean, it's embarrassing, really. But I did some work with him, and the lad changed so much. And it was quite funny. They used to come to every single event. They turned up, and he would tower over the whole family. The whole family would come, and he would tower over them. But those carers made a massive difference to his life. And I still feel passionate about it now. It's a long time ago now, but he's now an adult. He's got his own family. And the day he, soon after he left, moved in with his girlfriend, he phoned up a carer and said, "Hello, X." He said, "You're right." He said, "Yeah." He started to cry. So why are you crying? He said, "I miss you." And it was a lovely story. And they worked through many. He had many problems, and we talk about problems shared as problems solved. And they managed to solve many of the problems that he had. He's able to talk to them about his deep-rooted problems. He couldn't talk to the residential staff in the unit he was at in Wales, but he could talk to our carers because they're very skilled in just allowing him to talk through his life. And I think that story epitomises Blue Sky. The work the colleagues did with the carers themselves, fantastic foster carers, and the young man himself who made lots of changes. And I think therein lies this story about Blue Sky, and that is just one story amongst many stories about changing what they can do. Yeah.
You're obviously involved, Rupert, in that matching, and for all prospective carers that are watching this, you're reading the referral of that young person, and it's a difficult read, I'm sure. So, what was that nugget in there, and and why was that match with those carers? What could you see from that young person where they had that ability to match well with our carers, or what can our carers give that young person?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, Marcus, it was an interesting one because I wasn't sure that it was the great. Initially, I wasn't sure because when I read it, it was quite negative. I'll tell you what the difference was, and I'd be honest, the local authority social worker knew the young person so well. He was so passionate. So he had the referral and he had to put in all the stuff that was challenging. We also talked about the other side that we may not have seen or may not be so much in referral. And it's because he was talking through it. And then we got to meet him twice and I could see, yeah, I felt there was something within there that and because my carers are passionate, I thought if they're passionate and they really want to do this, they haven't had any prior experience, but they have the right attitude. So when you talk about our values, they had all the values, they had the right attitude, and I thought, you know what, we can do this. And what I'll do is I'll do some work with them as well, and I'll work with the carers, and together as a whole, but mainly, I won't take any credit because mainly the carers and the work they did. We changed that lad's life, and he had to do a lot of work himself. And actually, he got really good at fishing too. And agreed by the local authority, he was allowed to be in the paper, showing his cat. But what they did do was find a hobby, and we talk about hobbies being really important. They are really important. They found a hobby where he struggled with his peers, but adult relationships, and he got on well with adults and actually really behaved around adults, and he could take losing as well. And he took a hobby that he could excel at, and everyone would go, "You're amazing at it," and that gave him confidence that he's never had before. And so, if you find something, a niche, something that a young person is good at, arts and crafts, anything, it could be anything, and you can hone that. It's massive. And they took another young lad they got into, and he had complex difficulties, and they got him into dances too. And he got a little cup, and he's so proud of it. And they took a photo of it, sent it to his mum, and they made his life. They changed his life too. And they continue to do that, by the way, with so many other young people they take on. It's not just about darts; they do many things with other young people. But actually, when some people were questioning, was that the right activity? They actually believed in it, and together we got through that. And actually, in the end, the local authority helped with extra funding because he had to travel to a distance to go to a club to help, and he nearly made it onto the BDO circuit. He was very close to it, and still, I think he still does tournaments now, still does well in tournaments.
So I think there's a lesson there then, Rupert, from that initial referral and the risk assessment and the chronology we get of that young person. You'd have read that and thought, well, there's a lot of negatives here, but it's about unpicking it, isn't it? And I feel so sorry for these looked after children. Historically, through their whole life, anything they've ever done is recorded on that piece of paper, isn't it? And our lives are not like that, Rupert, are they? And we're not judged, and we don't want to judge these young people. We don't want to judge them, and we want to look at those, like you said, find something, find that nugget, find that niche, find that passion, ignite that passion, and wow, what a lovely story. And thank you for all the carers as well, Orlando. Great that you've come.
Yeah, just a quick word on Orlando. So I did Orlando's assessment, and we talked a lot about our values. And what was great was that I gave her a little bit of homework to do on the core values and what they mean to her, and she was able to actually. She's the first carer to actually have that in her assessment. So that's one for Orlando. But where she was so passionate about what how she believes in it, I know that she'll make a fantastic foster carer because her core values are aligned with our core values. And so many people we have carers and our colleagues are aligned with the values, and they go on to be fantastic at what they do because that value base is really important to have that really strong value base.
And thank you, Trisha, as well for logging in. Hello, Trisha. And Deb, sorry, I've seen you sent a message, Deb. Once it's all back to normal, you have a friend again that'd be interested in fostering, and somebody could give her a call. Please give that number on the bottom there, 0800 035 6499, Debs. Get her to call me, and please get her to call me now because it is, in terms of fostering, more than ever, with the lockdown, with the coronavirus, more and more children are coming into care because these families are breaking down. It's ready. It's now. We would love to talk to them. Let's not wait. Who knows what the new normal is going to be for us? So please, Debs, do get them to call. So yeah, thank you very much, Rupert. And again, said with passion, those core values, Rupert. I'd like to now move on to wow moments. Wow awards for our carers. So look, our carers do fantastic work. We've got lots and lots of carers. You can see the wow awards. So we respect all the hard work that those carers do, but how do they come about? Can you give an example? I know it goes out to all the staff, social work team, to praise those carers and what they do. And a lot of those, those carers don't want praise. They just go about their job, and they never want a pat on the back. And it's about blue sky saying, no, actually, you need to stand on that pedestal because you've turned a child's life around. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. So what we decided to do. So every year we do phone our carers and find out how things are going. So feedback to us is really important. So in the early days when we had 2 carers, 5 carers, 10 carers, 20 carers, we always got feedback, but there's no difference to having more than that. And so feedback is really important. And a carer talked about it'd be great to have some acknowledgement every now and again for someone about the work we do, not just in supervision with us. And we get great feedback, but from a manager, senior manager or something. So we came up with the idea of wow awards. So basically what it is that when a carer has gone above and beyond, and that could be helping another carer in a crisis, that could be some outstanding work with a young person, that could be some good liaising with professionals, it's so many things. And through this crisis of COVID-19, we've seen so many carers put themselves out for other carers and young people, and fantastic. Every month, our social work colleagues and also other colleagues, not just social work colleagues, write a little write-up about Mr. and Mrs. A, B, C. And I look through all of them, and there are 2 or 3 winners every single month. They get a little gift, and every single person that gets nominated gets. Sorry about the terrible handwriting. If any carers listening, if you get one of these and you see terrible handwriting, that's my handwriting. So I handwrite thanking you for what you've done, with an example of why you were nominated. Sadly, not everyone can win. We have about 3 winners, 2 winners a month. But some of the stories are honestly outstanding. And for me, it's amazing.
Rupert, sorry, can you touch on one of those as an example, just to give members of the public thinking about fostering and existing carers? And I know certainly when those awards come out, you kindly post that to everybody within the organisation. Gets to see what that award was given for. So all those carers that are currently with us, we get, all the 120 members of staff that Blue Sky have, we read the work that you're doing, and it makes my job so much easier that you're delivering that great service. But can you give one example, Rupert, so people can get an idea?
Yeah, so there's one the other day, and I might have this slightly wrong, but it was along the lines of a young person's birthday, and we're in lockdown, so it's difficult. But the guys went above and beyond to make the young person's birthday special. And I think, if my memory serves me right, they had some sort of they set up a stage, and everyone performed something, and they all sang "Happy Birthday," and they had an amazing cake. And at the end of the day, I think the young person made a comment like, "You guys are amazing. What you did, what you given to me for my birthday." And for me, that stood out as someone that there are many great ones that month, by the way, but that was one of the ones that stood out to me because our foster carers went above and beyond, giving something to someone who some of our young people don't know what birthday. They've never had a birthday cake. I know that seems a bit odd, but that is a true story. We have so many people that don't celebrate birthdays, so they went the other way, and they went above, over the top, making her birthday special when it was in lockdown and very difficult for many of our young people who got birthdays and for birth children. But it was what they did. It was the detail of what they did. It wasn't just they had really given it some real thought about how this day was going to look. And at the end of the day, the young person's feedback about that day was incredible. And it's those little things when the young people say, "I love you," or and it was recently when one of our carers in a support group read out he got a birthday card or something from a carer, or something, I think it was a birthday card, and he read it out about what the young person said about what difference he's made to his life. And it's like those moments go, not going to cry. It's but so those stories, that's just one example of the story about our carers going above and beyond, but that's just one example, but there's so many examples I could give. And hearing those every month is incredible.
Glad I'm not the adjudicator to decide who's going to win those awards. We'd give awards to all of our carers, wouldn't we, if we could, every single one of them. And Deborah, thank you so much for your post as well. Deborah, you're recently approved, I can see, as a respite carer. And anybody that's listening today, if you don't feel you want to be a full-time carer and that's your career, you can always offer respite care. So any short breaks, summer holidays, you know, all these types of opportunities for you to provide and link in with our existing carers. And I know full-time carers, it's very important that we support them with respite care. So Deborah, I hope, fingers crossed, any day now you're going to get a call with your first, I mean, is it school holidays next week? I think summer holidays. So I'm sure, Deborah, you'll get your first respite placement. So again, respite is where young people go from their existing full-time carers and they move to respite carers to give the full-time carers some respite. So again, if you're thinking about, oh, you know, I still want to continue my job, but I feel I've got some flexibility and I've got weekends available, please do call that number on the bottom. So fantastic. And Rupert, you know, you've been a mainstay with Blue Sky, and I'm sure it's very difficult for you to give one example, but I've asked on these Marcus Meets really what my colleagues' proudest moments are. So do you have a proudest moment you can recall within those 15, 16 years within Blue Sky?
So one example is the young person I spoke about earlier, but for me, there've been many. Obviously, meeting you was one of them. So we, so I say we have some amazing colleagues in across the areas, and one of our colleagues set up something called Together Through Talent, and it's about young people coming together and sharing their experiences in the care system at the end of the process. I mean, it's difficult at the moment, obviously, where we are now, but at the end of the process, they stand on a stage and perform to parents, to colleagues, to other professionals, to other young people, and to our foster carers. And that could be in song, in dance, in comedy, and yeah, I mean, to me, when one of the young people stood up and talked about their experiences pre-care, and then I won't go into that, but and then what it's like living in care and how her foster carers have changed her life, was a moment where you could hear a pin drop. And I looked around the room, and there wasn't a dry eye. And I sat next to someone I know, actually. I used to work with him, but he's a reviewing officer, and he said to me, "This is incredible. Listen to the experience of young people. It's their choice whether they go on stage. Some of the young people didn't want to go on stage. Young people did something by he just did words and some music in the background, and but it's that young girl who stood up and said that. I thought, wow, it was a really powerful moment, because it talks about what her life was like, what her life is like now, what the moment of going into care was like. That who met her outside of school, how she came into care, and how it's changed her life. And for her to stand there, and I say it's a proud moment, it's more of a wow moment in terms of incredible, really, because when you see it from a person's, through their own eyes, through their own shoes, what it's like, because we can empathize, we can't really understand what it's like to be in that situation. And yeah, it's a powerful moment, and I'll never forget it. And for me, that was an incredibly proud moment, because Blue Sky was set up to have these kind of moments where people can speak openly about what it's like. And also for me, I know you've spoken to Ed, there's a participation side of it. When you see some of the things that young people are able to achieve through participation, and not just about tokenism, it's about getting young people involved with Blue Sky, getting them involved with interviews, getting them involved with having a say, getting them involved with opportunities that may not go into Sky Studios, having an opportunity to do DJing. Those kind of things that we created at Blue Sky are also very, very proud, because there's experiences that young people will keep with them, and when they leave us, they'll always have that memory of getting involved with Blue Sky and events and participation. And at our Blue Sky Festival, which is for all of us to go to every year. Again, sorry, this year is a bit difficult for those guys to go and stand and perform on stage, and it's all about them. It's a very proud moment. And when you see all the families, when they come, and all these families that when we started out with one carer, two carers, it's like now you look at it and go, wow. And our carers continue to make massive difference. And I see some of the carers on here now. All of those guys have made, Trisha, Devs have made some incredible differences to young people. They're incredible. I mean, I spent time with Trisha, talking to her. Incredible And those guys, hats off to them.
Yeah, no, and I think I may have said this before in a Marcus Meets, but it's about if a child chose an agency, they choose Blue Sky, isn't it? In the things you talk about, the participation, the engagement. I think the Together Through Talent is an annual event as well, isn't it? So, you know, if anyone's listening and I've attended one of those events, and the self-esteem and confidence a lot of those young people, you know, would never have seen that happening before they came to Blue Sky, and they stood up on stage and they, as I said, it might have been a mime, you know, it might have been holding up signs because they didn't feel confident enough to read, you know, to talk in person. You know, I mean, there wasn't a dry in the house, was there, Rupert, on that? And any foster carers that, you know, just please get involved. If you're considering fostering, you have a spare bedroom, no matter what your background, you know, no matter what your history, please come and talk to me. There's grey areas in fostering, and I want to talk to you about that. And everybody has the potential, if you've got a spare room, to be part of our organisation and work with those young people. So I can't thank you enough again for today. You know,
just one more thing about the event I just want to share quickly was we have some guys in one of the our areas, and they came late to the event last year, and with two lads who got complex needs and minimal communication. And they came late, and I said, "Oh, you're a bit late." And they said, "Yeah, we had a party, and they don't often get opportunity to go to parties, so we've got to max out here." So we but they got into it, they got involved. And when I saw the carer the next week, he said to me, "Yeah, one of the young lads, he sat there saying he just kept repeating, happy, happy." And for me, those kind of stories are still that gave me such a lift that a young person could come along and with minimal communication skills, but still was able to say happy, and he really enjoyed going along to that event.
I can remember talking to those carers.
Yeah.
You know, he was sort of non-verbal, wasn't he? And I actually at that event, and Blue Sky embraces everybody to attend the event. I was on the bouncy castle with that young person, holding our hands and jumping up and down, and the joy, even though non-verbal, just the joy in his face. And as you said, to go back and say to his carers what he said.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember speaking to those carers, you know, went through the assessment, you know, 6 months later, there they are fostering, you know, two brothers. And then we get to see those benefits with those young people, don't we, at those events. So that's a lovely story, Rupert. And yeah, again, please, anybody listening, give that number a call, 0800 035 6499 to chat to myself or my colleague Kate about fostering. Again, Rupert, thank you for your time. Director of Operations, I know your time is valuable, but we really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and goodbye. Thank you very much, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.